Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Joe, he's Nick, and you're listening to the Nick and Joe Show, coming to you live from the Think Radio Broadcast Centre in the nation's capital. That would be Canada, Canada's national capital region, Ottawa. And I'm here in the studio, and Nick is on the farm again, because Nick wants to just be a farmer. And
you do that intro far better than I do.
I know, Nick. Well, I've rehearsed it many times. And in the studio tonight with me, not us, although Nick is here virtually, is our good friend Chris Fraser, who just came back from Florida. So we're going to get into a bit of a discussion about what's going on down there in Florida. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Good to be here in Ottawa. Nice freezing Ottawa.
Nice freezing Ottawa. You got back just in time. Well, when did you get back?
On the 16th.
Okay, so just in time for the polar vortex and our first real dump of snow, which, wasn't anything to write home about. I guess, 8 inches thereabouts?
That was a lot of snow.
7, 8 inches or thereabouts. But was it actually?
Even that.
Was it? Well, I don't know what it was out there. It was. I don't even remember when was it. It was last week, right? Right, because we did the show
last week.
Right. So you weren't in last week, so we did the show the way we usually do it because you were out on the farm. That's what it was. It was Tuesday.
No. Last week wasn't I on the air last week in the studio?
I don't remember.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah. Listen, nobody cares to listen to us talking about where we were last week. Well, that's not true because Chris has got some stories about Florida and that. But before we get down to that, let's do the housekeeping, Nick. Okay, if you want to join into the conversation live in our chat room, click on the chat bubble on the live player. That's on ThinkRadio.ca. Of course, you're already on ThinkRadio.ca if you're listening to us. Probably. Well, no, you could be using the app or anything like that. I'm just free associating here, guys, whatever comes to my mind. Click on the bubble. If you are not registered or whatever, you may have to register. If you are registered, you may have to log in. And that is to make sure that you are a real flesh and blood human being, not a robot, not a bot, not an evil, malevolent algorithm. And we got a lot of people that were downloading the podcast on the algorithms. By the way, Nick, that was a popular for whatever reason. It seemed to be a very popular. What's the word I'm looking for? Episode. Topic. That's episode. It. Topic. Okay. Episode. And just for those of you who are tuning in that maybe were listening to us, a few months ago, for a long time, we would post our podcast all for the whole 2-hour show would be one single podcast. But what we do now is we break the show into 4 segments, which we were doing before, but we post them as each segment is a separate podcast. So, if you're listening to the show live, stick with us for the full 2 hours. And if you want to catch the podcast, then, segment 1 would be up on Thursday morning. Segment 2 would be up as a separate podcast on Friday morning. And then Monday and Tuesday of next week would be segment 3 and 4. And then we would have the live show on Wednesday. Okay, so I don't really know that anyone is completely concerned about that. And I don't know why I felt it was necessary to say it, because I usually don't. Anyway, so Chris.
Yes.
Back from Florida.
Yes, back from the wonderful state of Florida.
How's the weather down there?
When I was down there early January, it was like the around mid-70s. So it wasn't super hot, which is great because I didn't want to be that hot. But it was hot enough that we could go to the condo pool and have a swim a couple of times that week. So
mid-70s would be, for Canadian listeners, somewhere,
that's around
low 20s.
Low 20s, yeah, 21, 22, okay. Yeah.
Right.
So just perfect for walking around.
Temperature is perfect.
It's room temperature. Nick is still on Fahrenheit. Nick
never left it.
No, I know. That's what I said. You're still on Fahrenheit. I didn't say you went back to Fahrenheit.
And I'm still in feet and inches, and I'm still in miles an hour, and I'm still in pounds and ounces.
So just wrap your mind around this for a second, Nick. Okay, if you were on Celsius, then you'd also be on Kelvin.
Hmm.
How does that?
I didn't ever like the guy. I thought he was a lousy forward.
Kelvin, not Kevin. Kelvin. Okay. No, we're not going there. No, we're not. We're not talking hockey tonight, Nick. We are not going to talk about how great the Montreal Canadiens are doing in the first week of the season or so. So, okay.
You're not even going to mention how that the best team in the league right now is who?
Montreal.
No.
Well, you're going to tell me that the Toronto Maple Leafs are the best in the league?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's only because they haven't had their crash yet. Just be patient.
There's only 52 games in a season. They can't afford to crash.
By the way, last one of the episodes last week, we were talking about that 79 series. I'm sorry, I do have to say this because I did post this in that podcast in the information section and in the commentary section. But just if you're listening and you haven't checked that out, we did talk about the 79 series Stanley Cup final, the Game 7 between Montreal and Boston. And in that conversation, I mentioned mistakenly, because we weren't sure who the players were that were involved in the penalty towards the end of the game, but it was Donnie Marcotte that was the Boston player, and he didn't jump on the ice. What happened was he was supposed to shadow Guy Lafleur, and the Guy Lafleur was double shifting, so Donnie Marcotte did not come off the ice when his shift ended. He stayed on shadowing Guy Lafleur, and somebody came on from Boston, and that was it. Too many men on the ice. And the goal scorer was not Steve Shutt. I wasn't sure about it. It was Yvon Lambert. Anyway, I wanted to correct the record for anyone out there who, and I know one or two people who have not heard the podcast yet. I know they haven't heard the podcast because they have not sent me any rude notes about my having got those facts wrong.
I will. In the vein of being honest and transparent and eating a great big slice of humble pie, the Canadiens are in fact ahead of the Leafs by 1 point.
Oh, so the Canadiens are better than the Leafs. Okay, that's it. No more hockey talk tonight. We could do a whole.
No. They just happen to be ahead of them by 1 point.
Okay, well that's still ahead of them.
Except to say that my Sens are in last place, I think.
Are they?
They've only won one game out of 10.
The hockey team?
That's right. Ottawa has a hockey team. Ottawa has a hockey team.
Look at that. Who knew?
They try to be.
They try to be a hockey team.
I feel sorry for their goalie.
Yeah, I was watching.
Anyway.
Okay, I really want to talk hockey, but we're not going to do that, okay? Because there's so many interesting things, and not about current.
We do our sports show.
We should just do. Why don't we should just do a new podcast to do a sports show?
Yeah, I'd go for that.
There you go.
Well, we have ones and ones to listen.
Here's a question for you, Nick. What are they going to call the Edmonton football team now that they're no longer the Edmonton Eskimos? And it's really funny because I've been seeing in the media where they don't know what to call them, so they're calling them EE, the EE football team. Right. And I'm thinking, okay, that's Edmonton Eskimos. Everybody knows that. So I don't think that really works. But are they going to rename the team? Is there some sort of competition? I think
well, what I would do, I would just say, fine, you don't want us to call them Eskimos, we'll call them Inuit.
The Edmonton Inuit. But that would be it would no longer be racist then, it would be cultural appropriation.
As long as there's a season, that's all I care about. I'm a Red Black season ticket holder, so I want to know, am I going to be in those stands come June? I'm crossing my fingers. Like, I do hope I'll be in the stands because I can tolerate missing one season, but 2 seasons, that'd be too much.
Well,
believe me, there's a huge hole because the CFL didn't play this year.
Well, guys, I don't know what to say. I will say this about the Edmonton Eskimos. They will always be the Eskimos in my mind, but if you're looking for a new name, I think you should consider the Black Reds. or I think we should go back to the tradition of having two teams called the Rough Riders.
Yeah.
So we should have the Edmonton Red Blacks, but their name their name would not be one word, it would be 2. The Edmonton Red Blacks.
Yeah.
and that will satisfy our need to have two teams that are the same name of the same name.
How about the Keystones after their dead oil pipeline?
Oh, I thought you were going to say after the cops.
Well, it could be that. No, see, how is this? This, we have a whole production meeting before the show, and we're talking about all these issues, and Nick's scolding us. He's going, we have to stop doing the show before the show. And it turns out that we didn't do the show before the show because everything we talked about isn't even, we're not even on the same subject we're supposed to be on. Okay, back to Florida, Chris. Okay,
before you go, in the chat room, Jay Ron made a really good suggestion for the Edmonton Oilers. He said the oil stains.
The Oilers?
The oil.
Yeah.
Excuse me, oil stain.
No, but are the Oilers are the Edmonton Oilers having to change their name too now? I know of. Actually, in this time of a climate emergency, I don't think they're allowed to use the word oil.
That's right.
So
I would have not really.
That's right. It should be the Edmonton Windmills.
The Edmonton Windmills. I was going to say the tar sands.
Edmonton tar sands. Okay, let's get back to.
All right,
back to Florida.
Chris. Okay, back to Chris in Florida.
Left Canada yet. We got to go to
back
Florida.
Back to Florida. Okay, here we go. Florida.
Yes, I was on a mission to go down to Florida. Actually, my mission was I have a good friend in Ottawa who has a service dog. She went down to Mexico, and she couldn't take her service dog with her, so she left the dog with me. So my mission, which I accepted, was to bring the service dog down to her in Florida. So if you've never flown on an airplane with the dog with you, it's quite an experience. And I have to admit, it was a fun experience. The dog was very well behaved, and better behaved than a lot of the kids that were on the airplane. A lot of crying babies for some reason on this flight. But
Mommy, I don't want to wear a mask.
Yeah. But you know what? I got to Florida. It was in the mid-'70s, and what a different world than here. Lots of Canadians live in Florida in the wintertime, like my friend does. But it was an interesting time to be there because, of course, I left lockdown Ottawa, Ontario, to spend time in Florida. And really, the only time you would notice that there was a pandemic was when you went into stores, department stores or restaurants, and people were wearing masks. But aside from that, it seemed like just another day in Florida.
Now, do people have to wear masks indoors in Florida? Is there a mandate?
Yes. So it was kind of like it was here in the summertime, where you had to wear a mask in the big box store, any kind of store or shopping mall. You had to wear a mask. The first night I was there, we went to a little Mexican restaurant, and so you walk in with your mask on, and as soon as you get to your table, you can take your mask off. Of course, it was in the 70s, so a lot of people were dining outside too, so most restaurants had indoor dining and outdoor dining. But it was, you could see it was a much more relaxed atmosphere down there. People seemed happier. Now, granted, okay, when it's the mid-70s, should be happy regardless, but it just seemed like there's a lightness to the whole environment that compared to what I left in Ottawa with the lockdowns. And it was very uplifting to be there for a week and a half. Unfortunately, I come back and you have to quarantine for 14 days, which was a bit of a drag. But if you're going to quarantine, let's face it, quarantining in the middle of January is not that bad.
So you got to quarantine at home, right?
Yes, I had to quarantine at home.
So you got back to Canada within the amount of time before they have imposed the new quarantine rules, where you have to go to a special government approved hotel.
That's right.
For 3 nights.